finds, if the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Welcome to our show, Heartbeat.
Ay, marami pong salamat.
Marami rin yung lalaki. Ayaw rin ng divorce.
Change, meaning introduction of new policies.
Natutuwa ako na
Dito
And
Bingo.
all that, or just katito.
buwan ng linggo ng kanyang panunungkulan and it went from 5 peso and 30 centavos.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Welcome to our show, Heartbeat Live. As you heard, I'm your host, Ray Orosa. We'll be together for the next almost 1 hour. Pag-usapan natin po mga bagay na mahalaga para sa ating bansa. Sa gabi pong ito, bago tayo magpunta sa ating topic, no, kasi gusto ko sana pag-usapan itong framework agreement na pinirmahan noong October 15 sa Malacanang ng ating administrasyon at saka ng mga MILF representatives. Puntahan muna natin yung ating nakaraang programa, yung mga winners ng ating mga texting contest. Alright, yung winner number 1 from 0908-602-9359. Our topic then last week po yung ating terrible performance in sports. Ito po sinabi ni Alex Leonoro Paranaque. Mali ang focus ng sports development. Dapat i-prioritize yung mga sports kung saan pwede tayong mag-excel tulad ng boxing, taekwondo, diving, karate at iba pa. Alam po ninyo ang problema natin dito. For example, gumon na gumon tayo sa basketball. But there is no hope that we can ever excel that much in basketball. Una-una dahil sa kulang tayo sa tangkad. No? And so many of the Americans and the Europeans, even the Eastern Europeans, are such tall people, we can never expect and hope to be their quality. Or at least not for a long time anyway, unless lumiit sila, tayo lumaki. No? So, but it's the popular sport. So who's going to say, wag tayo maglalagay ng tao sa basketball kasi wala naman tayong hope na manalo. But I think the point is correct that there are some sports where we are not at such a disadvantage physically. Although, for example, maski na sa swimming, medyo ganun din, no? Na pagka ikay matangkad at mahaba ang kamay mo at paa mo, ayan, at yung mga daliri mo yung mahaba, you can excel in swimming more than naturally people from the Philippines. But at least we can come up with a reasonably good performance. Kanya lang, dun sa huling Olympics, it was an absolute disaster. Yes, the focus must change and we must then try to decide what are the sports where we have something of a fighting chance para hindi naman tayo mukhang masyadong kawawa. At pwede ba, mabago na rin sana ang attitude ng mga association leaders natin. Hindi ito time for a junket, lalo na pagka nagpupunta sa Olympics. At wag tayo open up the qualification to all Filipinos. Do not try to be so restrictive. So, and number 2, be accountable for the money and let us use the money wisely. Alright, ang winner number 2 from 0916-736-1553, si Edsy of Pasay. Lumalaba ang ng nagiging kultura, lumalala po ang nagiging kultura na natin ang palakasan system at ang corruption. I think we need a person who knows what is right and what is wrong para mabago ang sistemang ito sa sports. Wow, that's a very, very great challenge. And our hope is always that whoever comes out on top there will take the interest of the nation seriously above his own personal interest or his own association. Yan po ay napakahalaga na ating makita na ang namumuno dyan, whether it's the National Sports Association, whether it's the Philippine Sports Commission, or the Philippine Olympic Committee, although that's a private organization, should be people who are capable of thinking in terms of what's good for the nation and who have the capacity, who have the insight. Pero kung matagal na tayong nandyan, tapos wala, ganito pa rin ang performance ng ating sports, baka panahon na naman para magkaroon ng change of face. Magkaroon naman ng pagbabago na ang ma-elect. Dito, hindi yung may kamag-anak, hindi yung matibay, yung malakas, kung hindi yung marunong and wise and has the interest of the nation at heart. Okay? So, kanya lang, we're not trying to condemn anybody kung sino nag-aakala dyan. At sana, mabigyan naman ng total support ang ating mga national sports associations. And more than the association, that the affairs of the association should be run professionally and with integrity and with honesty, taking the larger interest of the people of this nation at heart. Okay, so ngayong ngayong gabi, pag-uusapan po natin dito ay itong framework agreement on Bangsamoro territory na kapipirmahan lang po sa Malacanang between the MILF and the government of the Republic of the Philippines. I want to find out what your own views about this. But before we go into that, gusto lang natin mabigyan ng linaw, hindi pa ito ang peace agreement. Huwag kayo masyadong, tuwan-tuwa tayo sa nangyari na nagkaroon ng pirmahan. Ganda yun. Pero let us not confuse the framework agreement as the peace agreement. Ang hinihintay natin dito, itong framework agreement ay naglagay lang ng parabang general principles na gagawing batayan ng pag-uusap para magkaroon eventually ng framework agreement. Okay? So, pagkatapos ng pirmahan niyang framework agreement, ano ba ang gagawin natin? Anong nangyari at anong nabago? Anong dapat gawin? Well, according to the procedure at saka yung kanilang roadmap na ginawa, kung anong mangyayari, ang susunod dito, dapat mag-issue si Presidente Noynoy ng isang executive order creating the Transition Committee. I think that is wise because it is a recognition that you cannot solve the problems on the first step. It is a process that must go through a fair amount of time, maybe as many as 1 or 2 years, in order to be able to arrive at or abutin natin yung isang peace agreement na kaya nating lunukin both sides. Now, there is also a problem many times of trying to expect too much or expect too little. Meron tayo, siyempre, nandiyan yung mga skeptics, yung mga cynical people who view any kind of agreement with the MILF as being foolish. But I think that's a wrong and a poor perspective. Ang siguro dapat natin dito, we try to look at it with as much goodwill and positive outlook as we can while we accept that there is no such thing as a perfect agreement. Alam po ninyo, sabi nila, meron isa nagkomentaryong ganito. Sabi niya, alam mo, when it comes to, when you sit down with another person or another group at magnenegotiate kayo, ang pinakamaganda raw na agreement ay yung pareho ay lumalayo sa lamesa with an agreement, pero hindi sila totally contented na nakuha nilang lahat ng gusto nila. Bakit? Kung ang isang tao nag-walk away from the agreement na nakuha niya lahat ng gusto niya, that means siya lang ang maligaya. Masama ang loob ng kabila. No? But itong ganito na, especially conflicts like this, that have a long history, at saka napakadami ng karahasan at problemang umiral over the years, to expect an agreement that we are all going to be happy about, of course, is a bit too much. But at the same time, I think it is possible to have very, very solid achievements that will lay the foundation on how we are all going to live together. What I like most about this framework agreement is that hopefully it will stop the culture of bang, 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 bang at barilan. Na we resolve our problems only when it comes to or by means of the gun. And this is why we must take a look very carefully at all the noise that the MNLF is making and their attempts to try and scuttle at wasakin itong pagkasunduan sa pamahalaan. You know, my only feeling there is that Chairman Miswari had his time. Unfortunately, he did not do a good job. What can we do? Paano? Hindi nangyari yung kanyang hinahangad. So, as far as we are concerned, dapat naman siguro pabayaan niya muna itong pangyayari sa MILF. After all, it also carries the support of the Organization of Islamic Countries. So let's see how it will work out. And faced, I think, with enough goodwill, we can expect a lot of things to happen. Alam po ninyo, yung iba nagkikwento nga sa akin na meron silang ilang mga Muslim na nakausap na tinatanong ko anong reaksyon nila dito sa framework agreement na ito. And some of them said, baka bumalik na kami sa Mindanao. Well, that is good because tama yung sinabi nung some of the MILF representatives na medyo pagod na sila sa violensya. Sabi niya, we've been fighting this at least since the Second World War. For the last 40 years, bakbakan, abay, halos 150 mil na raw na tao ang namatay dahil sa itong away na ito. And it's time that we gave peace a chance. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, let us be as supportive of this framework agreement. And if it's going to fail, let them prove it that it will fail. But as far as the people are concerned, medyo suportahan naman natin ang efforts ng administrasyon dito. Why? Because alam po ninyo, bawat isang buhay na nawawala dito ay mahalaga sa bayan. Ang bayan ang nalulugi kapag merong namamatay sa karahasan, pamagitan ng baril, ang ating mga mamamayan. Kanya ito po, mayroon na tayo, nag-umpisa na mga text natin, 0916-736-1553. Ito ang sabi ni EDC ng Pasay. We must laud President Noy's efforts in forging an agreement with the MILF. Napakatagal na pong problema natin ng giyera sa Mindanao. Sana po by 2016 magkaroon na po ng katahimikan sa ating bansa para umadlad tayong lahat. Well, I have come, Brother Ed, I have also come to the same conclusion na if this thing succeeds, wala pong makikinabang kundi ang bansa, tayo rin lahat. Ang kapayapaan sa Mindanao, among the Muslims and the rest of the communities there, even the indigenous tribes like the Lumads, etc., pag yan ay naging buo at totoo, ang makikinabang po dyan lahat ang nakatira sa Mindanao, maski na yung mga nakatira dito sa Luzon. Bakit? There will be such a surge of economic activity and prosperity in that area. Aba! Can you imagine, the potential of Mindanao to feed this nation, to feed other nations, because the land there is so rich and so wonderful, and the weather there is generally very good, although there's a lot of reforestation that needs to take place. Kapagkat medyo naubos na mga puno dyan sa Mindanao, kanya siguro kailangan ng medyo ayusin yan. But at least now maybe we can begin without being afraid that if we do some efforts at reforestation or fixing this or fixing that, hindi natin kailangan iwasan ang mga bala. From 0915-520-6161 from Perry of Marikina. 1996, we had an agreement with MNLF. Hopefully, by 2016, meron na tayong peace agreement with MILF. Bakit naman humirit pa ang Abu Sayyaf? Alam po ninyo, ang Abu Sayyaf, I am glad that the LMILF are now saying that they are eschewing violence. Ayaw na nila ng barilan. Kanya, alam mo, in the same manner that there are some people in the administration or Filipinos who don't like this agreement with the MILF, I am sure there are also some Muslims in Mindanao who may not agree with the MILF. But I think what appears is that the greater majority of Muslims are willing to be supportive of this framework agreement that was crafted between the MILF as well as the government of the Republic of the Philippines. Ako'y natutuwa rin din because sapagkat itong pagkapirma nitong agreement na ito, even though there are many areas that are still unresolved, para bagang vote of confidence in each other that both of them are seriously committed to trying to pursue the efforts at establishing peace and no longer the culture of guns. Now, there are many things that work against it, but on the other hand, if you don't begin now, when will you begin and where will you begin? There is no such thing as an ideal situation, but ika nga dito, when enough good men with good motives and goodwill want to create an agreement, establish that peace, and they work together, then I think the chance of a lasting peace evolving out of this framework agreement is very good. Kanya, as far as I'm concerned, anyway, opinion ko lang naman po, sana magkaisa-isa tayo dito, mga tito taga Maynila, taga Luzon, taga Visayas, at maski na taga Mindanao, na mga mamamayan ng bansang ito, let's be supportive and let's pray and let's wish and let's encourage the administration and the MILF to pursue this effort very, very seriously. Okay, so kaya kailangan nating matiyak. Ngayon, from 0916-629-1699, from Eric Beha of Cagayan de Oro. Sir, paano na ang Tripoli Agreement and Treaty of Paris? Well, the Tripoli Agreement that was forged in 1996 seems to be more of a dead agreement now because the greater majority, although I'm not saying that the MNLF has no following, but the greater majority of the Muslim people seem to be supportive of this agreement. And in the framework agreement na nakita natin, eventually, the MILF will have to seek legitimacy by way of an election into the ministerial frame of government that they are seeking to establish in the Bangsamoro Republic. In other words, hindi lang pwedeng sabihin, ay kaming nandito dahil sa kapangyarihan ng baril. Kailangan din ang mga taong bayan doon sa ARMM o doon sa teritoryo na masasakop ng Bangsamoro ay magbibigay ng kanilang boto. I think that's a very, very good provision that has been accepted by the MILF especially, that gives them legitimacy. It also shows that they have confidence na ang mga taong bayan in a free and open election will be supportive of them. Now, of course, even the people from the MNLF will be open to run for that ministerial parliament that is going to result in the Bangsamoro Republic. So, sana bago magreklamo ng katakot-takot dito si Nur Miswari, si Chairman Nur Miswari, sana sabihin na lang niya, sige, magtunggali na lang tayo by an open election kung sinong mamumuno doon sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region para malaman natin kung sino ang talagang representative ng taong bayan dyan sa Autonomous Region. From 0916-423-0336 from June R. Project 8, Quezon City. Ano ang assure natin na susunod ang mga Muslim sa agreement? Well, there can be no promise that is given that you can say you can rely on 100%. But I think if they are seeing, and even if it's, maski na medyo siniko ang tao, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, dito sa agreement na ito, pag nakikita nila na maganda ang resulta sa pamamagitan ng pamamahala ng affairs doon, nagkakaroon ng maybe better levels of education, better and more job opportunities, greater investments in the area, at nakikita nila that there is sincerity on both sides. Now, how can I assure and to what extent that sincerity is? Hindi ko po masasagot sa inyo. Only God can tell you. Kanya lang ang isang bagay na mahalaga dito na kailangan natin tingnan. We must assume that this agreement is going to require a lot of patience on both sides because there are still interests that are probably desirous of destroying any kind of peace in Mindanao. And that is unfortunate. I wish that this is also a time when we can rally all of the people on both sides so that they will all be supportive. Hindi pwedeng iiral na lang dito ang emotion, ang galit, ang puot. That's a terrible way to conduct the affairs of the people of this nation, regardless of who they might represent. From 0926-624-2769, from Edna of Laguna, bakit kailangan gawin federal form of government ang Bangsamoro? Sana this agreement will be the start of something new para sa mga kapatid nating Muslim. Oh, of course, that is our expectation. Bakit kailangan? Yun ang gusto nila, a federal form of government. I'll have to mention something to you. Ito from my personal standpoint. Personally, I'm also in favor of a federal form of government dito sa ating bansa, no? Or at least if not a federal, we start out with a parliamentary system. I am not in favor of this totally American-style form of government that we have. Binana natin sa Amerika yan, pero yan ayon sa kanilang tadhana, sa kanilang history. Ay, iba naman ang ating tadhana, iba istorya natin. So sa akin, mas maganda at baka marahil mas maigi ang parliamentary form of government. Ang federal means the independence of the individual provinces or aggregation of provinces and with well-defined and great deal of devolution of power to them to determine what is best for them. Kanya, when we were pushing the the constitutional amendments and ano, one of the things that I used to go around this country trying to explain to people is how the federal system and the parliamentary system might work. And even then we accepted, nako, transition period dito, baka 10 taon. Hindi natin pwedeng biglain kasi ang conversion from our presidential form of government to either a federal or a parliamentary system. The simpler thing is to become a parliamentary system first. So wala na tayong lower house and upper house ng Kongreso, iisang parlamento na lang. And ako naman, I've also said, I am not in favor of senators being elected on a national basis. As far as I'm concerned, you can have another level of parliament or a single that may have regional senators elected, pero doon lang sa region and they become accountable to the region that they represent. Rather than simply to say, hindi, national election, which makes it so very expensive, so very magalo, at saka ang nangyayari lang sa mga senador, lahat nagkakaroon ng ambisyon na maging presidente ng bansa. Kanya ang paraan ng pakikitungo doon sa Senado, hay nako, medyo nakakagulo at lahat ng tao filled with ego. Yun ang nakikita naman natin sa kilos ng mga senador, lalo na pagka naghihiring-hiring sila dyan, kung paano nilang laitin yung mga tao, kung paano nilang abusuhin, kung paano nilang pagsalitaan, bay akala mo sila yung mga anghel which of course is not true. From Marites of Quezon City, 0939-411-2355. How different is the Bangsamoro territory from the MOA from Bangsamoro juridical entity? Hindi po ba iisa lang ito? Nagpalit lang ng bihis? Hindi po, pero isang bagay na mahalaga. Dito sa framework agreement dito, nadinig ko sinabi nga ni Presidente Noynoy, for example, hindi kasama ang Palawan. Kasi wala naman silang inherent peoples din in Palawan. And there have also been other areas that have already gone to several plebiscites, I think at least twice, where they say they don't want to be part of the autonomous region. So dito natin napipreserba the right of the people to make that choice. And I know that there will be subsequent plebiscites in the autonomous region that will get the people's consent to being part of the autonomous region as well as who they want to represent them in the autonomous region if they choose to join. So dito natin po nakikita na yun ay pag-uusapan pa and some of the details need to be threshed out. Now, sasabihin naman ng iba dito, some people have made a comment also, however, that when the Palace released the framework agreement, it referred to certain annexes na hindi naman pinakita. Abay, siguro sa ating hinahanap naman dito sana, bayaan yung lumabas yung mga annexes na yan. Why? I think the people need to know exactly kung anong nandun sa mga annexes na yon. Hindi naman, just in the interest of having some transparency. Now, I realize how sensitive the situation might be, but it is better than getting the accusation na nagsinungaling o binola ng pamahalaan o hindi naging tapat ang pamahalaan sa tao. Hindi bahagi ng matuwid na daan yun . So dito, hindi ko naman sinasabi that we have to divulge all of the details of it, but at least if you refer to annexes in the framework agreement, sana naman sinama ninyo when you release that to the public, hindi ba? Alright, we're getting some signals that we are going to have to pause for a few reminders, but before I do, here is one last text. 0920-381-4113 from Weng of Quezon City. Ang Malaysia, Muslim country yan . Bakit sumali sila? Siyempre gugustuhin nila na ang Pilipinas na Muslim din. Umpisa lang ito. Alam po ninyo, Mindanao has been, many parts of Mindanao have been Muslim for the longest time. Wala pang Kastila dito. So let us not blame Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is smart enough to look at situation two ways. Because alam niyo sa Malaysia, meron din silang problema sa mga fundamentalist na mga Muslim . So they are also very, very, very aware of the potential for damage to their own country of extremism or fundamentalism among the Muslims in their country. So I believe that the political leaders of Malaysia as well as some of their own national leaders would like to see, and they have been asked, and I think they have played a constructive role in this negotiation. So alam po ninyo, Kung meron silang underhanded motive o meron silang secret motivation, alam naman po ng ating bayan yan. Hindi naman tayo pwede ring ipitin dyan at pwersahin. So they are there but they cannot force us. So whatever is there is something that our government has agreed to for some reason, and I think that you will find out in time that it was a wise decision. Alright, huwag ko kayong mawala. Babalik po kami. Don't go away.